Today is Julie Hogbin. Julie is an author, she does property development, she's a management consultant and works in conscious leadership. Julie, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, you're more than welcome, Pip. I'm really looking forward to this.
Me too. Julie and I know each other for quite a while and we do tend to have long chats, so this could be another long chat. But this is about you. So tell me, obviously you're multifaceted, which is brilliant. Where did this all start? What was the trigger for you to move into this branch of things and not just stick to like a regular 9 to 5 and do one?
Ooh. Well, interesting. I'd have to go back quite a way that launched me into this, not doing one thing, because what happened initially was that I was working for a company as a learning and development regional trainer. It was retail, and the retail company merged with another one, and there was an opportunity of a redundancy.
Mm.
So I looked at the package that was being offered and went, that's nice. There was a 40% enhanced payment, and I went, that's even better. And then they said, and we're going to pay the tax, because redundancy packages sometimes are taxed. So I thought, well, that's another 22%, whatever it was at the time. And then on top of that, they also provided us with outplacement services.
Oh, wow.
With a company at the time called Coots, based in London, who were really very good. So I looked at all those options and went, yes, why would I stay working long hours when I can go off and do something else? So what happened from that, and this is where it starts to get the multifaceted, because up until then I'd always had a job, different jobs, ex-accountant, ex-auditor, ex-installing technical systems. So I'd done lots of different things, and then I'd fallen into learning and development, loved it, absolutely loved it. And I went out to this outplacement consultancy, and I went in and said, I don't want to get a job. Don't even know where that came from at the time, but I remember I don't want to get a job, I want to go out and be self-employed. And the consultant, who went on to work for Harvard Business Review,
Oh, nice.
basically said to me, I've never had anybody walk through the door on their first outplacement consultant knowing exactly what they want to do. So I went to do training about marketing, branding, personal reputation, all of those sorts of things, because we had a pot of money to spend. And I actually ended up working for Coots as a trainer, doing self marketing. So for people that wanted to go out and get a job, how do you do that? So it sort of started back then, and that's probably 30 odd years ago now.
Oh, wow.
And then what happened, and what she also said to me was that she'd worked as herself, she'd worked employed, then self-employed, employed, self-employed, and she used to dip back into businesses to learn what was going on.
Oh, okay.
At the coal front, and then come out again. So I thought, well, that sounds like a good idea. And then what happened, I was self-employed. I did a massive contract with PricewaterhouseCoopers, through PricewaterhouseCoopers, for the Department of Work and Pensions. And that was an eye-opener of another level eye-opener, because those people worked, 24 hours for like 3 days on the trot. It was incredible. And then I finished that, and that was about 3 or 4 years I did that, and I walked away from it in the end because it just wasn't working with me integrity-wise at that point. And then I thought, okay, I'll get a job, and I saw an advert for a company, and the advert for the company was about making ripples in a pond. And it was, today that's probably quite normal, but back then it was not. It was well out of the ordinary. And they were looking for partners. So not a job, but a partner. And it was a learning and development consultancy that worked exclusively with the non-profit sector. So government, local authorities, NHS, charities, the third sector, which fueled my values. So I applied for it, never ever thought I would get it, and got it, and became the leadership lead within that business. So that introduced me to lots of other businesses, and I loved it, absolutely loved it. Loved the team I was working with. I was the leadership lead. Just loved the whole thing. earning decent money because, you know, we were our own bosses. We operated participatively. We operated transparently. So there was no gossip. There was no backbiting. It was just all dealt with. You know, we just, you needed to say something, you said it. And it was a joy to work in. And then people left. We were 14 at one point, and then we ended up one day in August 2011. I ended up around a dining table in somebody's, and our office was on South Quay, so just next door to Canary Wharf. And this day in August in 2011, I ended up sitting around somebody's kitchen table in their house, and there were 4 of us. And I sat there and I thought, what am I doing? And it all, you know, things had started to go a bit not quite right. I thought, what am I doing? And I got to about 12 and I just sat there and said, I'm leaving, I can't do this anymore. So I sort of got up and left, basically. And then what happened, somebody gave me a ticket, and this is how the thing then exploded. Somebody gave me a ticket to the National Achievers Congress.
Oh, yeah.
Back in the day, this is 2011.
Wow. Yeah.
When it was the conference. And I got to that conference and I bought a property investing program. I bought a internet marketing program. I bought the Tony Robbins Walk on Fire program, because why would I not buy that? And I bought something else. Can't remember what the 4th one was now. So I launched into learning about, and at this point, I didn't know I could own 2 houses. Didn't know. Didn't have a clue. Nobody around me had. My parents hadn't. You know, they all had jobs. They worked 9 to 5, got a good, nice pension at the end of it, etc., etc. So I launched into this new world of entrepreneurial ship and learning different things. Oh, Forex trading was the other one I bought.
Okay.
I started to learn the property first, and I loved it. And when I actually thought about it, I've been doing property, but for myself, since I was about 24. Buying bricks, redoing them, refurbing them, living in them, selling them, upgrading. So I sort of almost semi-knew some of it, was very comfortable with it, because of my leadership management background, really confident, you know, no issue talking to tradesmen and all of that sort of stuff, because you've got to be able to do it. No issue talking to tenants, no issue talking to estate agents, because you've got to be able to do it. So I had that skill set. And then I learned about Forex, and I traded Forex for 6 months, broke even, which is big, but I didn't like Forex. Watching blips going up and down screens was just not my thing, so I binned that. I tried it again later as well to see if I changed, but I didn't. I hadn't. Multi-level marketing and internet marketing, learnt how to build websites, all of that. That's not my thing either, because it's not people. And then, so I've been doing all of that sort of thing since 2011. In 2012, my mentor at the time said to me, you really should write a book. I went, me? Who's going to read a book? I've now written 4. I didn't, and then he told me that in 2012. I didn't write one until 2015, so there was like a lag. So I'm not going to say I've been the fastest of burners, but what I've managed to do, one way or the other, is keep myself out of a job. I mean, I manage my own properties, but keep myself out of a job, try different things, travel, go to conferences around the world, network. I mean, I've had an absolute whale of a time. To be honest, I've loved every minute of it.
I think there's a couple of things that you've mentioned I want to pull out, and the first one you mentioned about your values, though.
Yeah.
And I know this is something you talk about, but for those who don't know, when you talk about you're not aligning with your values, what does that mean for you, both from a work point of view, but also for an everyday life point of view? How do you explain that to other people?
Your values are your drivers. And when you work with your values, everything you do is easy. I say it's everything you do is easy. That's really simplified. But when you work with your values, you're in alignment, which means that what you're doing is what you love, and what you love is what you want to do. And it makes things easier. If you're working in alignment with your values and you understand your values, because that's, we can all say, one of my values is honesty, but what does that really mean coming through in behaviours? It means you have that conversation, you know, and you do the thing. You have the conversation, you do the thing, you talk to the person, you call people out, you speak the truth. And of course, to do that, you've got to know your own truth. So when we are truly honest as a value, and it's one of my highest values, you've got to know yourself. So you've got to be really self-aware. But what you've also then got to be is knowledgeable about what the value means, because one of my other highest values, so I'll give an example of this, because I hear people say it all the time and then they're not sure what it really means, and I look at them and I'm like, well, you're not living your value. So of course you're going to have conflict and issues and problems. So one of my highest values is freedom, which basically for me means nobody's pulling my strings. You know, if I want to do something, I will do it. If I don't want to do it, I won't. And then that's where the honesty then comes in, because if I don't want to do it, I'm going to tell you why.
Yeah.
Or if I want to do it, I'm going to tell you why, type thing. And freedom, it was really interesting. So I'll tell you a true story. So I was running a program. I did a talk at Cambridge University a few years ago. And a woman there had a job. She was having real issues with her boss, and she was, you know, bad mouthing the boss and all the rest of it. And I said, well, what's the problem? She said, well, she keeps telling me off for being late. So I said, well, part of my head went, you know, business consultant, well, you should be there on time anyway. But what it was, her highest value was freedom. So having a job where she had to start at 8:30 in the morning till 5 went against every sense of freedom she had, because she wanted to take her dog for a walk in the park and not bother about coming back. So she was permanently late because she was, to get to the job, she was going against her highest value.
Yeah.
So it's understanding what the value is and what it actually means to how we behave.
Yeah.
So I've done a lot of study. I've done a lot of work on values, understanding mine, but you know, I help people work out what it means, because we can say we want to be a property entrepreneur and we want to be our own boss, but if one of our values is security or safety, it's going against, you know, being our own boss, taking the risk of property. If you're a property investor, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a small amount of money you're putting at risk, but you want safety and security. They don't really go hand in hand. So you've got to understand it.
I think that's a really good point, because also with anyone who looks to go into business for themselves, whether it's property or something else, it is that freedom versus security all the time. And people don't appreciate that. And it's something that I think isn't taught enough, in terms of going, yes, you can have this freedom, but it comes at a cost. Now, is that the cost that you're willing to pay? And if it's not, that's okay. Because there's a reason that we have in society a range of setups, because people are different.
Yeah, absolutely.
But time and time again, that safety value comes into play so much, particularly when it comes to finances.
Yeah.
It's just being aware of it, like you were, and going, no, I guess, so people could say, well, you know, Julie, you were lucky, you got the redundancy payment, but it's what you did next with it.
I spent it. I spent it. I got to the point where I had about, I think it was 22,000 at the time. This was like a long time ago. It was about 22,000, which was a lot of money. I spent it because I didn't know about financial intelligence. I didn't know about financial IQ. I didn't know about compounding. I didn't know about leverage. I spent it. I had a while of a time, but I ended up with no money and starting again. I had a while of a time while I had it.
And I think that's the thing as well. It's what you know and what you don't know, but it's still what you do with it at the time.
Yeah.
And despite all that, you still knew what you want. You figured out your values, even subconsciously or consciously, and you went, this is what I want. Just so happened, I also had a really good time in between doing that, and why not?
Yeah. You know, if I had known then what I know now, it would be different, but then I wouldn't be the person I am now, because I would have done something different. So I'm happy where I am, and I don't live with regret. It's just no point.
Well, I think I'm the same in terms of, there's just no point. Like I said, every point in my life has led me to where I am now.
Yes.
For better or for worse.
Yeah,
but absolutely. I wouldn't be who I am now without those experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So talk about values, but the other thing I wanted to talk about, and I think we've kind of covered it up already, but really it is that alignment to what you're doing and how, as you say, I think people, particularly now, I think it's work with social media and the internet because it's such an opportunity out there, which is very enticing. Lots of shiny different things. But again, it's coming back to what is right for you. And I love the fact, you tried Forex. It wasn't for you, but you tried it, and that's cool. And so many people are worried about trying something and failing, that either they don't try, just in case, or they try it and keep on going because they don't want to look like they failed. Oh. And it's having the confidence to go, it's okay, it's not my thing.
Yeah, I mean, we have to, we don't have to try anything if we don't want to. We can stay where we are, but then that leads me to that thing, the one thing that is constant is change.
Mm-hmm.
So if we try nothing new, we approach nothing different, we fall behind, we go backwards because everything else is moving forwards. So even staying the same, we go back.
Yeah.
So I think this whole thing, one of the key things, and I do this a lot with people when I'm working with teams, companies, individuals, whatever. It's about personal change. Because if you don't like what you've got or you want something different, the key component is yourself. You've got to change. You've got to do things differently. Otherwise, you'll never get a different result. Because every result we get externally comes from us internally.
Yeah.
So, personal responsibility, knowing who we are, self-assessment and change, it's like that's where self-mastery starts to form. And the more we can self-master, the better results we're going to get.
Definitely. And the key thing here is, as you say, everything is constantly changing. The world's moving. The earth is shifting even as we speak. And so trying to hold on, trying to keep everything the same. It's like wanting a child never to grow up. They're going to grow up. Yeah. I mean, how well they grow up is on you as a parent, but they're going to grow up. And having it can be courage to kind of go, I'm going to embrace the new things and recognise that not everything will be comfortable. Not everything is going to work.
Yeah, and I also think as well, because if you do stay still and you are unhappy, that unhappy compounds become unhappier, because if you're around people, and I've seen this in masterminds and networks, if you are around people who are doing stuff, people can become, not everyone, but people can become envious of the people doing the stuff, where they've got exactly the same opportunity, but because they're stuck, or they're not taking the risk to fail or to succeed, either or, they become even more stuck, and then they get even more, for want of a better word, scared to try something new. And I think this whole thing, I couldn't tell you how many mistakes I've made. If you look at it like that, I've had a lifetime of mistakes. Financially, business, relationships, there's hundreds of them. But you've got to learn from them. We're all human. There is no perfection. Perfection's in the eye of the beholder. What is perfection? Because it's different to you, to me. So as long as we learn from the mistakes and don't compound them too bloody far.
Yeah.
Nobody's perfect. Warren Buffett has made mistakes. Elon Musk has made mistakes. Who else? I mean,
Everybody has.
Grant Cardone has made mistakes. We're not perfect.
Or as my doctor told me in my mid-30s, when I got diagnosed with B12 deficiency, after a certain age we all have something. I was a bit mortified at that point, going, I'm only like 35 or something. But the point being, like, nobody's perfect. And the older we get, you're going to have baggage, you're going to have mistakes, but they are what they make you who you are today.
Yeah, of course.
And that's wonderful. And I always think, if you have made mistakes, you've lived. You've taken yourself outside your comfort zone. You've tried something. You've gone somewhere new. And I don't know if you know this. I've been arrested in about 3 different countries by accident. Wasn't intentional, but But it happens, and this was the day before we had phones all the time as well. So like
Yeah.
I was in the middle. One time I was on the Belarusian border. I didn't have the right visa. It was a complete misunderstanding. It happens, but it's such a great story now. I would never, at the time I was probably a bit like, oh, okay, no phone, middle of nowhere. Where do I go? What do I do? But it's all part of who I am now. And now I know if I ever go to Belarus, which is not very likely right now, I get the right visa.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I don't think I've ever been arrested. I can't remember being arrested. I think you've got that one on me.
It wasn't very serious arresting. Like it was, like I said, I got held one time. I got held at the border of Belarus because I was traveling from Ukraine through to Russia, and I had the wrong visa. Another time, actually, I exaggerated. I didn't get arrested. I got a fine. I was riding motorbikes in Thailand without a license.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but I just was very polite, and I paid my fine, and I apologised, and he wrote me a nice little note saying that I paid my fine, and I was allowed to keep riding my motorbike. So that was great. Was it a fine or was it a bribe? I don't know. So again, it's all part of life's rich tapestry. Going back to you.
But but it's this thing, isn't it? If we don't try anything, so I'm of a certain age, and
23.
Yeah, well, I'm 28 in my head, but I'm just physically a few years older than that. But one of the things that I'm very principled. So if I don't believe in something, then if the principle's in, then I don't break it. A few years ago, we experienced where we couldn't do much of anything, and etc. etc. And people were doing the thing that I wouldn't do to be allowed to travel. And I love travelling, but because I wouldn't do the thing that got me the allowance to travel, I'd stop travelling. Plus there was a whole other raft of stuff going on in my life at the time, which sort of made it just like, yeah, it's not happening. But of course, what's happened since, now I am a woman of a certain age without a partner, because that was all part of what was going on, who loves to travel. What do you do? Where do you go? How do you travel on your own? You haven't travelled for a few years, and it's all like, oh, I've got to remember how to do it. So you've just mentioned Thailand. Last year or the year before, I went to Thailand on my own for the first time. And to be honest, first time ever. I've travelled on my own, but I've always met people there.
Yeah.
But this time round, I travelled on my own, stayed on my own, did my thing on my own. Clearly talk to people I was there, because stopping me talking is almost not impossible. But and people were watching me on social media, and they're saying, "Is it safe?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's fine. It's absolutely." And then I walked into a guy brandishing a machete, and I'm like, "Okay, maybe not." I say that it was fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not scaring Don't mean to scare anybody about that, but it's that whole thing of, if you want to do something and you've got the confidence, or you can build the confidence, or you're willing to give it a go. Because I went for a month. I've been for 3 weeks, and now I've been for a month. I'm going to go back again for 3 weeks. Depends on the flights I can get. But, in reality, when you can do that, and it doesn't have to be Thailand, you could go to Greece for a week on your own or something, to test it out. But when you can do that, you actually realise that you can be where you want to be. You can do and it comes back to freedom. You can do what you want to do, when you want to do it, how you want to do it. And when we talk about freedom, you are your own power, you are your own sovereign, you are your own boss, you are your own being. And when you get that, it is so powerful. Because when you truly, truly, truly get that, and that's real self-mastery, when you're in a relationship, whether it be a business relationship or a personal relationship, you're in it because you want to be in it. You're not in it because you need to be in it. And I've been in relationships that I needed. I got married because I needed to be married. Was it a good marriage? No. Did I get out of it? Yes. But I didn't know then what I know now. So if ever I'm now in a relationship, I'm in it because I want to be in it. I'm not in it for any need.
Yeah.
And that is that when you truly understand that at a really core, deep level, it's really powerful. And it just enhances any relationship.
I think there's an interesting Hawaiian therapy practice, I should call it. It's called Ho'oponopono. which it took me about 4 months to learn how to say properly. But it is all about accepting responsibility for everything. Even wars around the world, it's accepting responsibility, and everything starts with you. And as part of that, though, I think there's accepting yourself for who you are, good and bad, perfect, imperfect, blemishes and all. And that's why one of the things I love teaching Ho'oponopono is because it's really, I think we're often taught that to love yourself, to make time for yourself is selfish. But I go back to, you know, any of the wise sages going, if you look after yourself first, you can then look after others. If you know yourself, you can know others. And we don't, but sitting with yourself can be uncomfortable.
Yes.
And that's the thing I think people have sometimes forgotten how to do, is just to sit with themselves, how to travel alone. There's either a social stigma with it, of like, oh, look at that person, they're on their own, they must be sad. Well, actually, it's a bit judgmental. Not necessarily. I love travelling alone because I actually find going to new places gives me mental stimulation.
Yeah,
The new smells, the signs, and I love history, and I love naps, and I love warm places. Actually, I love cold places too. But like, there's a mental stimulation for me.
Yes.
And actually, as much as I love my husband, he is not a bit of an anxious traveller.
Okay.
So sometimes going without him is far better for me because I don't have to. He doesn't. I haven't got his worry on the side of it. But also when I travel with him, we see different things. We do different things because, you know, I'm adapting to what he wants as much as what I want. When I'm on my own, I can be selfish. But sometimes I need to be selfish to get my brain going again, to feel good about myself again.
Absolutely agree.
And I think when it comes to relationships as well, if you are in those relationships because you need to be in a relationship, then you probably need to take a step back and go, okay, why is it I'm not okay with myself on my own? Because then you get that imbalance, don't you, in those relationships, going, there's one partner who needs it more than the other one does.
Yes. Yeah.
You've got to figure that balance out, and it's hard. And relationships are hard. Adulting is hard. But
that's why we've all got to do a lot of laughing.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it all starts though off with acceptance of self and being comfortable with yourself.
Absolutely.
You can do that. You can do anything.
Yeah, it's interesting because I love life. I really love life. I think life should be lived and we should love it and it should be full of laughter. And if it isn't, we need to do something about it because we're not here that long really. So, you know, we it's not about, life should not be about drudgery. Life should not be about being bored. There's so much to do. There's so much to see. You know, and it doesn't all have to cost a bucket load of money. So much to do, so much to see, so many interesting places you can go. You know, in our own country, we don't have to travel to see it. I just think, I walk down the street and I will say good morning to people. I'm one of those people that's on the tube smiling at random, and they're going, ooh. But, you know,
Strange.
It's very strange. I'll walk up the local shops and I'll just say good morning to people. It's like, come on, we can be pleasant, we can be polite, we can have fun, we can smile. It's not gonna create another war by smiling at somebody. It's just not gonna happen. Yeah.
I was born in Durham, and so whenever I go to the northeast, I love it because everyone is that friendly naturally. I don't want to get into like a north-south divide, but although the north is obviously better. But I do the same thing on tubes. I do the smiling game when I'm feeling a bit bored. I'm like, who can I smile at? But I do remember one time when I was in an empty carriage and I sat down. And the next stop, someone else got in the empty carriage and sat next to me. Ooh. And I'm like, why would you do that? I might smile at you. Don't sit next to me on an empty carriage. That's just really weird.
That's all.
Step too far. That's not the game.
Yeah, that's not right.
But you're right though, and also of course when it's less muscles to smile, but smiling produces a lot of the good chemicals.
Yeah.
And I do remember I had a client who he felt like he'd lost the ability to laugh.
Yeah.
And so I basically made him do like forceful laughing. I said, like, go into your garden, look, like, no one's around, so you don't be embarrassed. Practice laughing. And of course you force it out, but then you feel really silly, and then he started laughing naturally.
Yeah.
And it actually, you know, smiling and laughing, it comes really easily. But we get so caught up in our day-to-day, we forget. But it's so good for you, as you say, just to let it out and smile and laugh and enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Absolutely. I had a bit of a moment the other week. So I do a lot of personal development, a lot, because there's always something new to learn, whether I'm working with my brain or, you know, my emotions or my unconscious, because I talk to my unconscious all the time. And the other day, so I am a smiler. You know, one of my charities that I give to is the Smile Train, because it's so important. And I woke up the other day and I'd just done a 2-day event. And it's really interesting how when I'm doing my own personal development, I feel shifts. I actually physically feel them. And I woke up the other day and I got in the car and I thought, something's different. And what was different? So I smile a lot. And it's natural. I don't have to put it on. But what happened was I smiled at somebody and I had no tension in my face. It's going to sound really random. I had no tension. All of the tension that I had not even known that I had when I was smiling had gone. So it was, and I can see the look on your face. It's that
Interesting.
It's that real moment of, it was pure smile. No, nothing behind it but a pure smile. And I smile a lot and I didn't even know that I had the tension.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I think we don't realise actually how much, again, going back to how much baggage we carry around.
Yeah.
But how choosing, because it's hard. And I've seen people, like I think you and I both know a chap who's a triple amputee, and you see him, and he's obviously, I'm not about his story, but he is so positive, he's so outgoing, he's working hard, he chooses to smile, essentially, is the way I see it.
Yeah.
But he could, you know, with whole validity, choose to not smile, and no one would begrudge him for it. But he chooses to smile, and it's really hard, because I think, again, this is where your point around networking and people comes important, because very few people are hermits. There's a few exceptions in society, and I think we all learned during that phase where we couldn't do stuff that actually introverts doesn't mean hermits. It just means less people sometimes.
I agree on that one, by the way.
Yeah.
Less people sometimes. Yeah, I just want to live in my little cave.
Yeah, exactly. But I still need people. And I think that's the thing, is when networking becomes really important, or having a social network or having people, is because we sometimes just need someone to remind us to smile, and someone to remind us that life is here for living, and someone to listen when it's really shit and then go, so what was good about this week, after you've got rid of all the dumping on it. Because especially the way the brain works, the left prefrontal cortex is where all the good stuff happens. And it's really easy to slip into that and feel good about life with a simple question of, oh, I'm well this week, and suddenly you'll switch straight away into the, well, actually. But you sometimes need people to help you do that.
Yeah, and definitely. You do. You know, coaches and mentors are worth their weight in gold, as long as you get the right one. But they're worth their weight in gold because they will ask you the questions that you don't necessarily ask yourself. That's one thing. Yeah. They'll give you a piece of information that you might otherwise not have known, which is another thing, because then that opens up far more opportunities. But it's also, when we are in our own head, we get stuck and we go round and round and round in cycles, and we can get into a negative spin. We can get into a positive spin. So we can get positive spin, we can get a negative spin. And in reality, when we're in one of those spins, neither really is helpful, because a too positive spin can make you absolutely hyper and not look at the reality of life and check and assess and due diligence and all of that sort of stuff. Whereas a negative spin can just take you down that plug hole that leads to nowhere and leads to not good mental health. And we've all got I often say this, we've all got mental health. But the only mental health you really hear talked about is when it's poor. But actually, we've all got it.
Well, it's a continuum, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you can go from bad to good all the time,
yeah.
Up and down. I sometimes refer to it more as emotional health, because it's being aware of how we're feeling and not feeling. But you're totally right that we only focus on the negative, but actually it's just as important to focus on the positive, because the brain's a muscle. Well, the brain needs to have that workout to stay in the good end. And whether that's going outside and being in nature or hiking, I mean, there's so much information about how you can get to the good end without drugs. And I think people, laughing, nature, walking, these are hopefully 4 things that anybody can do, but we forget to do.
Yes, yeah, because life gets in the way. But we've got to but that comes back to us being selfish. But not selfish, it's looking after self, which is not selfish.
Absolutely.
But taking time for ourselves, regardless of how busy we are, regardless of how many kids we might have or not have, regardless of, you know, your partner, you're looking after your elderly parents, whatever it might be, take time for self, because when we become unwell, we can't help anybody. You know, we can't. So we have to look after self, have to, as a primary. And then we can look after others from a really good place.
Yeah. I was talking to someone the other day, and there's that old quote which is, you sacrifice your health to get your wealth, and you have to sacrifice your wealth to get your health again.
Yeah.
And what I love about this person is they reverse it, which is health comes first, which is what you're saying is what we all should do.
Yeah.
And ultimately, especially if you are self-employed or running a business, because if you are not well and you are the sole person for that business, you're not making money. And if you're not making money, then you've got a whole other problems in this world, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So looking after yourself first is the best thing you can do for business.
Yeah, absolutely. The definition of wealth, the true definition of wealth, and most people use the word wealth as finance, but when you go back, track back the origin of the word wealth, it means wellness. So it's not, wealth as a word has been hijacked to mean money, but actually wealth is wellness. And that's one of the reasons. So we need to be in balance. We need money, of course we do. But if we haven't got the money, so we need money. Everybody needs money. We need health, because otherwise what's the point of having the money? Because if we haven't got a health, we might be able to pay for an operation, but actually if we haven't got a health, we can't spend the money. And then we also need relationships. Now, whether that's a personal relationship or a business relationship, but we need relationships because we are not an island. We do nothing on our own, ever. There is always connection to somebody else. And that's one of the reasons that, and I know I haven't mentioned anything about books yet, but Emmanuel Ezekiel and I wrote my fourth book, his second book, and we called it Wealth Beyond Money. And the quote that you've mentioned is Dalai Lama, and that's in the book. Because what is the point of chasing millions and being unwell? What is the point of chasing your health to an extreme, but you've got no money? What is the point of being in an absolutely wonderful, beautiful relationship, but you've got no health and you've got no money? So this whole thing around being in balance and knowing when we're in balance and knowing when we're out of balance so we can do something about it. So there's a questionnaire. So for all the listeners, if you want to do this questionnaire and get a free financial planner, it is free. Go to wealthbeyondmoney.today and you can complete the questionnaire and you can take the financial. It comes down on an email. The download comes on an email. And it's interesting. So Emmanuel and I have written the book. We've created the questionnaire, got the financial planner. We take the questionnaire. We're not 100%. So there's this whole thing, there's the perception of perfection, but actually, if you looked at Emmanuel, talk about fit. 60 plus, talk about fit. He's got a beautiful partner in a fabulous relationship, and he's wealthy, as in financially wealthy. But he's not 100% on the questionnaire. So if you look at me, not as fit as I should be, but getting there. That's my area that always goes out the window. Financially, I'm okay. Not mega wealthy, but I'm lifestyle, not empire. Financially, I'm okay. Relationship, best relationship ever with myself ever in my life, and a good network around me. Personal relationship, no, not one there, for various reasons. But I don't come out 100%. So you've got these two people, female, male, of a certain age. If you looked at the surface of it, you look all right. You're probably more than me in a lot of respects. But we're not 100%. So this 100% of perfection, it's telling you it's not out there.
But I also think what happens as you progress, 100% looks like changes as well, right?
Yeah,
so that level goes up a level each time.
Yes.
And I love watching people on their fitness journeys, though I'm obviously not a fitness trainer, but it's inspirational for me to see people go from, so my first target is to walk 30 minutes, then it's to run 1k, then 5k, then 10k, then not everyone does it, but some people go and do run marathons and ultras. And of course what they've discovered is what we're just saying is that 100% it changes, because they suddenly realise they can do more, they can be more,
Yes.
they can have more.
Yes.
And so of course it goes up. Or even as you say, go for lifestyle, not empire. that lifestyle view changes as well, because perhaps you decide you want to work abroad more, perhaps you decide you want to live in a caravan. The 100% changes as you change, and that's why it's really important to allow yourself to change.
Yeah, and it's allowing yourself to know that you don't have to be the same as everyone else.
Yeah.
Because we are unique. Our journey, our path is unique. Our future is unique, but our future can be whatever we design it to be, and then we live into the future because we've designed it, we've created it. But we have to believe, and this comes back to the belief, it comes back to the values, it comes back to saying I am and meaning it. We have to believe that what we want in the future is true and good for us. Because you can say, well, I want, or I am, or I believe that. And internally, you don't believe it. So it never happens.
Yeah.
Never happens. And that's where that whole alignment comes in again. And that whole believing in the personal change, and believing that we deserve it, and believing and having the self-worth and the self-love, and I'll say it, and sometimes we have to start with liking, but getting to the point of self-love. When we've got that, whatever that is over there that's our future, we can walk into.
Yeah.
But without the I am, without the self-love, without the knowing our values and knowing who we are and being self-aware and being prepared to change, that is not that. We can say we want this as much as we like, but it's not going to happen until we do the work on ourselves.
And as I said, it always starts with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we're probably going to run out of time soon. So if you had to give advice to anybody around how to build that lifestyle that they want, going back to the values, where would you start?
Where would I start? I would really start with working out what it is you really want. And it's not about what you think you can have. It's what do you really want? I was talking to a young guy today, probably 30, got 2 kids. His wife's had an affair. And I said to him, what do you really want? What do you really want? And he said, I don't know. I said, well, work out what you really want first, and then, do whatever's going to come after that. And I remember, just a really short story, back in 2018, when my life just went tits up, as the saying goes.
Technical term.
Yeah, technical term. When I looked to my future, I didn't have one. It was really dark. There was not even a glimmer of light at the end of a tunnel that I could grab hold of. And I worked really hard to find that glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel to grab hold of that now pulls me forward. And now what I said to someone the other day, it's a bloody great big ball of sunshine that is my future. So we all come through tough times, but it really is knowing what you want. And knowing what you want may be that you create a mission for yourself, linked to your passion, you create the mission for yourself, and then everything you do falls out of that. So my mission, and generally missions are quite short, but my mission is enabling conscious leadership globally. So what do I mean by that? It's about creating leaders, self-mastery, conscious leadership, knowing why we do things and why we do it, but globally. So I will never, ever end that mission, because I will never, ever get to every single person on the planet. So my mission is so big, everything I do feeds that mission, from writing books. And I sort of give that as an example, because we can have goals, we achieve a goal, and then what do we do? The next one, then we achieve the next one. But when it's attached to something big, it works really well. And that is probably why my first book was about goal setting. If we want something enough, yes, we can, and I'm into manifestation, and I'm into energies, and I'm into all sorts of stuff. And, and I talk to my unconscious, I work with my unconscious. But what we also have to have, as much as that's great, we've still got to know what we're doing and how we've got to do it and what the plan is. So that you can't sit and manifest and it falls in your lap. It's not quite how it works. I'd be a multi-millionaire multi-times over.
Yeah.
So we have to have the mission all our energy goes towards that. It's all the focus. It's who we become. It's, you know, what we are. And then we have a plan on how to do it, because we need a plan, because we've got to take the right actions. We've got to be in the right place. Like, you know, like networking. If you want to speak on stages to promote your mission, you need to be around the people or connected to the people somehow whose stage you can speak on.
Yeah.
Because if you're not, how are you going to ever speak on a stage?
Yeah.
You know, so it's all, everything connects. I mean, my phrase, nothing sits in isolation, everything is connected. Or everything is connected, nothing sits in isolation. And nothing sits in isolation because everything is connected. Whether you believe that, listening to Julie saying that in 2024, if you don't believe it now, come back in a couple of years and work it back.
Absolutely. That's so true.
Yeah.
Julie, thank you so much. I know we could
Oh,
keep
yeah.
talking
Yeah.
all day. How can people find you?
The best place to find me is on the web. Well, LinkedIn is one place, Julie Hogbin. My website, juliehogbin.com. There's lots of articles on the website for people to read. My books are on the website for people to see. There'll be courses on the website for people to have a look at. I do a newsletter called Lead to Wealth on LinkedIn. So people can subscribe to that. You know, I do a lot of free stuff because everybody, I think, and not, maybe people don't all believe me, I think people need to know this stuff.
Yeah.
Because then they've got more choices, and when you've got more choices, you can create a different future. Because if you're limited in choices, if you're limited in options, if you're limited in knowledge, because we are, you know, I said when I was 50, I didn't know I could own 2 houses. Didn't know I could do that. So up until the age of 50, I didn't know that piece of information, which is random, but it's true.
Yeah.
So, you know, when you've got access to information, it opens up opportunities that you either choose to take or not. Pure and simple. But once you've got the knowledge, you can't not have it.
Amazing. So true. Thank you ever so much, Julie. It's been wonderful.
You're welcome. I've loved it.
Yeah, no, me too. I think we could go on forever, so I'm going to stop it now before we go too far. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Okay.